Well, chat, how's your Tuesday? Good morning, good morning. Oh my god, sorry, I have funk jamming in my ears. We're gonna go with that. We're gonna go with that.
Making the mother of all omelets here, Jack. Can't spread over every egg.
Are we good? Are we good? Are you satisfied? Are you satisfied, kids? Better with a Valen? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. But welcome in, guys. I was honestly about to just sit here and scroll Twitter far longer than I should have. Fantastic. How am I doing? I only just got up like an hour ago. I do the thing now because one of the people in the house get up at 5 in the morning. And they like make smoothies and stuff before they leave. So at 5 in the morning, I roll over, I grab a pillow, and I shove it over the top of my head. And I leave it there until I wake up again. And recently, that has been like much later than I've been waking up normally. Satisfaction, a dark carnival guaranteed. It's just not your satisfaction? Correct. Don't you forget it. Listen, it happens, okay? It happens. Oh, good Lord. Okay, get up. I'm taking the car. The car, you're coming to take the car. Satisfaction. Finally, a good chat room. What do you mean a good chat room? Finally, a good chat. Goodness. But what is Solarpunk MMO Loftia releasing this year? Okay. Groove around. Listen. It's spare uppies. Hold on a second. Developers of Peak explaining pricing. They didn't change their price, did they? Wait, what? In a player's mind, what does it mean to spend $5? Well, that's $5, but $6? Well, that's still what? That's still $5? What? $4 is also kind of $5. He continued $3 is $2, and $2 is basically free. Anything that isn't free is not free. If I have to break out a wallet to buy something, it deters me heavily. So we've got these tiers, $12, then $10, but $13 is $15, and we found that $8 is still $5. It doesn't become $10. $7.99, that's $5, right? So $8 going to $5 is the biggest differential we could find in pricing. So we found it very optimal. It's pulling on speed limit rules, basically. But that's also a weird way at the end of basically saying, oh yeah, this was just the max amount of money we realized people were willing to pay for an extremely simple game. Made of virtual insanity? Yes, it is. Free is free, correct. If you're gonna sit here and tell me $2 is basically free, no the fuck it's not, it's $2. If you told me your game was 99 cents, I would still have to rationalize to myself that I have to find my fucking wallet. 5 bounds is just like 20 bounds. We're the same amount of bounds regardless of how many there are in a room. Flashes to the 2.0 pyramid. Did you ever get a clip of that? I forget. Holy sh! The Jamiroquai? Oh my god. Wait, is that a Sea Dog reference? I have no idea who or what Jamiroquai is, but I've been watching Sea Dog videos recently, and the number of ones I've seen him go, holy shit, I love Jamiroquai, is basically infinite. We need to invent mountain bucks? No, here we use coins. We use coins up until like the 20th denomination. Oh, was it? I totally missed that. Now we're listening to Love Train now. Now it's all about Love Train, baby. As opposed to the Love Shack, of course. Of course, of course. But, Johnson, do we want to talk about the news? That apparently a murder went unnoticed by the general media from New Year's. That a man was murdered by an off-duty ICE agent. Or that a couple days ago, another man effectively got, and the way I've heard people describe this is George Floyded a couple days ago. Disco? What about Roller Coaster of Love? Is that a real song? Unnoticed? I say effectively unnoticed. But only qualified as effectively. $10,000 to a fundraiser for the ICE agent who shot Renee. I heard somewhere that they raised like $500,000 for Jonathan Ross, the dude that killed Nicole. Also, why did I freeze? Why did I freeze? Come on. Come on. There we go. Please put it on. I don't know what it is. I don't want to hunt it down and then have to go find this thing again. Wait, what the hell is this? Oh, it's something else. Something else. Jesus. Roller Coaster of Love is RHCP. I have no idea what that acronym means. I have no clue what that means. Has been convinced murder is justified. Not the entirety of the United States, but there are some demented motherfuckers out there that lick the boot so goddamn hard that anything a police officer or quote law enforcement that they are told is law enforcement does is justified in their mind. Sit-ups. Oh, can we do something a little better than sit-ups? Sit-ups aren't that great. Let's do... do we want to do hip dips? It'd be a very similar core workout. Oh my god. Law enforcement, get the fuck out of here. Exactly. Dip the marin in cheese. Ew. When you fail the ASVAB so badly, ICE is the only option you got. Yeah. These are the same kind of dudes that say shit like, oh, I couldn't join the military because if I got yelled at by a drill sergeant, I would just deck him in the face. I'm so tough. All right, bitch. Take your gun away and do the job. Take your gun away and do the job. Oh, also, I don't know if y'all heard. Apparently there's a report that ICE agents aren't issued guns. So if that's the case, they're using personal guns. Issued nuns? No, guns. Shooting McBangbangs. Apparently it's not part of their like issuing process, or at least a good portion of them may not have any. So nice argument, officer, but how about I introduce you to my unregistered firearm? Where's that goofy coffee pasta? Copy pasta, not coffee. Copy pasta that's like, tally-ho, lads. I use the cannon mounted with grape shot at the top of the stairs. BYOG? I mean, I've usually ever seen that tag at the shooting range. Sets off every car alarm within a 4-block radius. Yep. It's smoothbore. So I missed. Oh, that's clever. The The boat of justice, all aboard. Shoot the flintlock with smoothboard, nails the neighbor's dog. Exactly. Exactly. What the fuck? Okay. I stabbed the intruder with a triangular bayonet. Oh no! Oh no, he bleeds out in minutes. Having a wonderful day today. More or less wanted to drop in to say hi for a little while. Hi, Jerry. Just as the founding fathers intended. Correct. Correct. Hold on, this is random. I just scrolled past this. Metacritic's top 3 user-rated games of all time. Number 1 with a 9.6, Claire Obscure, Expedition 33. Number 2 with a 9.3, Cory in the House for the Nintendo DS. Number 3 with another 9.3, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. That's so fucking funny. I don't even know. I genuinely don't even know what a Cory in the House game could possibly be. Possibly be. Hold on a second. Okay. Sounds like a Tunky bit. The Cory in the House one. Sticking your shirt at least be number 2 up there. Wait, what? What is that? Number 1, Dr. Ray Clear Obscure. Why is Cory in the House? If anybody doesn't know what Cory in the House is, it was technically a spin-off of That's So Raven. I think, or at least it was the same actors. It's the actor who played Cory's brother and the dad. The dad's like a chef. I hate this ad. Well, it's official. I just saw a VTuber make a foot fetish focused Gamer Steps ad of them pouring the drink off their foot into a cup. I think we've gone too far. I think we've gone too far. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, I wasn't sure because I knew the actor was the same. I just didn't know if technically it was supposed to be the same people. But, oh well. It's somebody I follow. It's a friend of a friend. And it's somebody I've collabed with. So, anyway, it's not my meat and potatoes, but they're at least a nice person. So, Kono? It's not Kono. It's not Kono. But I'm trying to see if there's any other interesting news. Why is CIA and... Oh, wait. I think I know why this is trending. CIA and Mossad are currently trending. Pretending that the Iranian protests are not Mossad and CIA orchestrated. Interesting. That's what a lot of... Yeah, okay, yeah. All of these posts are about the Iranian protests. Good Lord. Congressman Randy Fine posted, "Make Persia great again." Motherfucker, you took more than $500,000 from AIPAC, as well as were one of the fucking racists in the Young Republicans chat. How do you still have a job? Does anybody remember that? The like Young Republicans leak? Where it was like found that quote unquote young Republicans, even though these like the oldest was in his like fucking 40s. When that shit like swung around and everybody was like, Prince of Persia? No. Because a lot of the people in Iran are Persian, and it was kind of the main body of Persia at the time. But Randy Find was literally one of the dudes in the chat glorifying Hitler by name. Hi, Kafka. How are you doing? Welcome in. What a fucking disgrace, dude. Who knows the Scooby-Doo meme of Freddy pulling the shroud off the ghost? Hello. Why are there racists in the Young Republicans chat? Is like asking, why are there gay people on Grindr? Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't asking you why there was. It was very obvious that why they were. But it's the fact that fucking nothing came of it. Islamic terrorism pulls the shroud off. It's the CIA and Mossad again. I'm curious because we have some South American viewers here. Has anybody heard about the fires in Argentina? Has anybody heard about that? I need to know if anybody else has heard about the national forest fires in Argentina. Yes. So apparently, recently, Argentina passed a law that said that like places that were essentially victims of like wildfires and stuff could be sold instead of like what's the word? I would say I'm going to use the word repatriated, not exactly the right word. Reforested. Let's go with that. And apparently, in the past like week or so, 2 different Israeli tourists were found and arrested in the forest lighting fires. A church in Houston burnt down yesterday. What? Houston church fire. 3-alarm fire touched 3 buildings. Northern Houston complex may have been intentionally set. Ooh. Do they have a culprit? Oh, of course you want me to disable ad blocker. How about you eat my entire fucking ass? Houston Fire Department investigating cause of church fire. You're 19 hours, 12 hours. Fine, we'll do this one. Near the North Freeway, searching for person of interest. 100 firefighters responded to the blaze, the church and 5600 block of North Freeway near West Parker. Everyone's just burning shit down. The thing is like, the reason you burn churches, and there is a reason you burn churches in this case, and it's usually to instill fear. Burning churches is a really good way for an attempt at like targeted terrorism, basically. And historically, it's been, I hate to say this, and this is going to sound conspiratorial. Historically, it's already been used as a method for essentially other gains. In the case of like through the mid 1900s, through the mid 1900s, Israel was known for burning synagogues, bombing them, and doing all sorts of things that they can to make the Jewish community feel unsafe so that they would move to Israel. And it worked. It did work. It worked across Africa. It worked in Western Asia. Only for a lot of them to get there and end up second-class citizens, mostly the African Jews. Churches take away the good sign? Good at advertising your band. The Norwegians knew this? Listen. Well, I mean, Norwegian churches were mostly wood. And if I remember correctly, didn't they have a practice at some point of like building their churches for very special holidays and then burning them and then just building them again the next year? But yeah, attacks on churches are churches, synagogues, mosques, whichever places of worship you want to call them, are, if intentionally done, are more often than not to send a message or inspire fear. So if you ever see something that's like, oh, a church got set on fire, the person did that for a reason. Granted, the reason could also not be as big as like terrorism or something. It could be as small as like some petty person with no self-control got kicked out of the congregation and is really fucking mad about it. So they light the bushes on fire or something. Because that is not unheard of, because Americans don't have good emotional control. The fuck is that? Megachurch that was super old that burned and got fixed up in like no time? Megachurch? You're not thinking of Notre Dame, are you? Notre Dame, I think, didn't Notre Dame get hit by lightning? The thing, what's funny too, is with the rebuilding of Notre Dame, and it took years. It took multiple years. The thing with the rebuilding Notre Dame was that they didn't have schematics for it. They used, and I'm not even joking, Ubisoft. Ubisoft had full scans of the Church of Notre Dame. Thrice? No. Since 2020? In its lifetime, maybe thrice, but definitely not since 2020. No, it was the thing that, like, Notre Dame at the time, too, the roof that it had at the time was entirely wooden. Its walls are stone, but its, like, roofs and its easements were all wooden. So they had to, like, rebuild all of the internal structure and the roof, basically. Psychopath and murdered later an extra band member. Oh, is that the one? Is that the like, he was actually, well, he considered himself a Satanist. Okay. Yes, that's exactly why, Beef. They had essentially scanned the whole place and had a quote unquote perfect 3D model of Notre Dame for them to build off of, to essentially bring it back to its attempt at an original appearance. Yeah, 2019, I'm pretty sure was lightning, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was. The thing too is, I remember during the reconstruction process, people were finding graffiti hundreds of years old. Hundreds. Things that were just like forgotten and like not cataloged or not known, just up on the sides of the walls. It's always those cool things when you have those like ridiculously huge buildings that are not easily scalable and stuff. And the stuff that you discover when you're doing the most like minute details. Iconic locations came in handy. Yeah. In the most gaudy fundamentalist area of the USA, but dedicated to Elmo from Sesame Street and Watch the Chaos. Where would that be? Kentucky? Arkansas? No. This I did not click this song, chat. This song came on its own. Baby bird. Anyway. DC is not it. I promise you DC is not it. South Carolina could work. On a list of places to visit on my bucket list, Notre Dame. I want to visit Notre Dame someday, only to be the most annoying person there and sing the bells of Notre Dame. Somewhere in the Bible Belt. I really don't think Tennessee is that bad, although you could do Tennessee. Granted, I've been to Chattanooga because my family lived there. That was where Nana and Pop Go Round lived, but they have both since expired. I want to visit Dubai one day. Do not. I promise you, you do not. It is not worth it, Murdoch. It is not worth it. There is no reason to visit Dubai. And if you're thinking about food, there's better places to go. Go to Oman. Go to Oman instead. The Bible Belt is less Bible-y than parts of the Midwest, I swear. It really, again, it always comes down to the cities. Major cities are very, well, agnostic. Unclaimable steps that aren't made with nails. That's New Mexico. That is Santa Fe, I believe, or outside Santa Fe. Yeah, Dubai can huff my fucking farts. I ain't going to a city built for rich people by slaves. And then the fucking people that are like, hey guys, I'm gonna leave my watch and my cell phone here on the hood of my car. And it's gonna be here when I get back in 6 hours. And it is. They show that in the video every time. And they're always like, man, it's so safe here in Dubai. Yeah, as if not committing the minorest of infraction doesn't result you in getting your hands cut off or execution. Sure. Sure. Which parts? What, the slave labor? You didn't know Dubai was built on slave labor? Who did I watch? I may have a video to show you. Then there is somebody I watched recently. I watched it in my own time. But I can't find it. I can't remember who it was either. He actually went there, and he actually went to one of the camp houses and like showed off multiple times in the video of like the buses of people like loading up at like 5 a.m. to go to work. And then when the sun goes down, they load back into the buses and are forced to go back to the camp. I say camp, it's like a really shitty apartment complex. No, it was newer. It was much newer. I'm not admittedly know little on India's history. Dubai's not in India. I was like, wait, am I thinking of the wrong city? Wait a minute. I thought I was wrong. You're thinking of the slaves. The slaves are mostly from India. That is what you were thinking of. I read it. I was like, wait, am I wrong? You know what place is better to visit than Dubai? Mumbai, India, no legal slavery, considered India's legitimate Aqua tech capital, more progressive than most of India. There's also India also technically has a communist state, which I can't remember what the name of that state is. I know that shit. I'm sorry. No, you're good. You're good. I thought I was wrong first, which I think is the funniest part. The thing is, though, Food Tour does, in fact, have a Dubai episode. Do we want to watch that today? Like, we haven't watched any of the Food Tour stuff in a decent amount of time. Oh, Jesus Christ. Chat, do you want to see the most insufferable video I've ever seen? Hold on a second. Let me get the screen in here. I need you to see this thumbnail. I ate at every Michelin-starred restaurant in Dubai. Yeah, you look like you would. You fucking look like you would, bud. Oh, and of course his name is Alexander. Christ. Also, look at all these fucking tags. World's best restaurants. My ass. He looks, it doesn't look real. Why are you making the okay sign in both hands? Wait, isn't, maybe not. I'm not gonna overstretch it. Because sometimes that sign can also be a dog whistle. The dark side of Dubai's 7-star hotel. Mayhaps. But yeah, I saw that thumbnail and I felt like I had to show y'all. Because what a dork. What a dork. Yeah, communist politics is what I mean. Kerala, that's it. I'm pretty sure it's Kerala is the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Still true? Listen, it's because every time you fish, Sunstar also fishes. Offload a joke. What astronauts fear bed bugs in the moon because they are lunar ticks? Boo! Except bed bugs also aren't ticks. You know what? You can have that joke. You need a disco emotes? We don't have any space for more emotes. I am not going to be getting any more emotes until we have more space for them. Span from New Delhi to Himachal Pradesh. Ooh. Whoa, I got strats too? Sure. Sure you do, Sunstar. What are your strats? Share with the class. Let's disco. Oh my God. Listen, it'd be cool to have a disco emote, but it's one of those things, man. It's one of those things. Strat D's fucking nuts. Boom. Got him. Hey, Sunstar. Will you please get the gun? Please get the gun. We need the Snickers. Apply on the monster can art that we don't have yet, but also need. And a disco. God damn it. Who the fuck? Okay. I'm trying to see if I can find anything else in the news that I may be forgetting. Ugh. Spirit Forged? What the fuck is that? And why does it say it's trending in the United States? Oh. Oh, League of Legends trading card game. Oh, no. Oh, and everybody's already saying it's sold out in seconds. Anybody want to place bets that people are scalping the shit out of it? What the fuck is this? Pre-order site crashing. Okay, but how the fuck does the game work? Is it functioning the same as that one other game that they have? League mentioned. Hi, Otter. Nah, apparently they released their like pre-orders for civil rights unpog and leading to the desk femination of white people. So it turns out Trump is even dumber than I thought. Yeah. Well, he's also a racist. He's every discrimination. Got you. Wow, if that really isn't the definition of a person seeing equality of another person. Oh, what's the phrase they use? The equality of another person as discrimination or theft of rights. Rights aren't a goddamn pie, people. I will never understand this mentality. I will never understand this mentality. What the fuck? Using the word for word Klan slogans at this point, this entire administration can go like a yeast infested taint. Yeah. Yeah. Never have been, never will be. Exactly. The thing is the only way I can describe it is government essentially taking everyone's rights and then deciding that they're going to distribute them as they see fit and describe it as benevolence, which in turn deserves a firmly faced fist to the face. I say faced, I meant placed. Firmly placed fist to the face. Good song. How leaves are in my song. Firmly grasp it, I yell, holding your throat. Good song, man. Good song. This is cool in the gang, isn't it? Under the Sly and the Family Stone. You suck a bunch of fascists today, kids. Wow. What a bunch of fucking idiots. Oh, you know the thing about like the video of Sarai's thing? Yeah, I think it was yesterday we talked about it, and I was like, it's probably a mocap suit. Apparently it is not mocap, it's optical mocap. Possibly like a bunch of camera setups. Interesting. Is it Wolfenstein they can shoot fascists in the face? Ooh, I think I have some Wolfenstein games downloaded. We may do that tomorrow. We may do Wolfenstein tomorrow. I missed it. What did Sucker Punch do? Wait, what? Not a person or a thing, Sucker Punch. The action of sucker punching. You know, when you punch somebody when they least expect it. Good Lord. But damn, now I really want 3D tracking. Granted. Wait a second. Hey, Buff, how are you doing? What the? Hold on. Why do I keep... never mind, it's fine. It's fine. If that fascist didn't want to be covered in milkshake, then they shouldn't have dressed so provocatively. If they didn't want a fucking sandwich to the face, they shouldn't have been standing where I was throwing my sandwich. The law moves like molasses ain't so good with the neos or blitzkrieging public and foreign policy. Yeah. Or just even not giving a shit about it. Just sidestepping the whole scenario. It's ridiculous. Company who made hit game Infamous best character fetch. Yeah, yo. Or planning on invading allied nations? Yeah. Landlord in Ireland did this. The Irish got extremely stabby when it happened in Athens, Tennessee. The World War II vets staged an entire war against their local government. When the coal companies did this in West Virginia, the miners stole a bunch of guns, leading to the battle that resulted in the killing of 110 to 200 people. If I keep seeing people saying unaliving, I'm going to start individually strangling each one of you. They killed them. They murdered them. Quit pussyfooting around. Smart ass. You got 1 minute. You got 1 minute. It's ridiculous. It's also why I don't like censor my swears in shorts, because I'm like, why would I? Why would I? 1 minute of playtime? Oh, good Lord. Critical existence failure. Unban the word unalive. We're not going to do that. I hate it so. Or like pew pews. I said it earlier because I thought it was funny, but I had already said guns before it. Yeah, we're not here to baby anyone. No complying in advance with monetization and post censorship. The thing is, like, it really doesn't matter that much. Because like YouTube also got rid of its what was it? Like the don't swear within the first 6 seconds of your video. They said they got rid of that. They claim to have gotten rid of it. Chat would like to be babied though. Well, that's a goddamn shame because you're not going to get it here. But oh. Interesting. I do good language censoring, disappearing wholesale. It just hypercharges inane slang creation. I can see that. It's the thing though, is it's just irritating language policing. That's not it. That's not right. I was like, what am I staring at? I don't know this person stares at post. Oh, it's because I'm on the explore page. Duh. Duh. Oh, right. Does what's how I found you? Wait, which part? Torturing innocent people and deporting without due process. That's all we're all on the list if you say words now. Who fuck? I mean, what was it? The Onion. They made a satire video. I think it was this morning they released it, and it was DHS has released a list of moms driving cars. Oh, it's the explore page. Yeah, yeah. Wait, really? That's actually kind of funny. But sorry, I just saw a post on. I don't know if anybody knows who I Show Speed is. I barely know who he is. I thought at one point he was like, I thought he was problematic at some point, but I may be mixing him up with someone else. But apparently, currently, he's doing a tour of Africa. He was? I remember something about like a pool. But I can't remember what it was. Did he turn a pool into Jello? Did he? I forget. Did he turn a whole pool into Jello or something? Instant time. That was. Listen, we all love Ash's art. Ash is also doing emergency commissions in case you want to get some really cool, spooky art. She opened emergency commissions. But apparently, I just saw a post. I Show Speed was buying a Kenyan dress, and the shopkeeper said 5,000 Kenyan shillings. Speed's guide told him to negotiate, and Speed negotiated it up to 20,000 Kenyan shillings. Speed as a customer is a blessing. The thing, too, is apparently Speed is... I've seen people weirdly, and I don't know how much I agree with this because I haven't seen. Apparently, he's kind of changed as a person, I guess. The thing is, though, is his viewers are some of the most annoying people I've ever fucking seen. Yeah, he negotiated to pay more money. I'm actually curious. Let's see here. Kenyan shilling to USD. So they said that was 5,000 for a dress. That is $38 roughly. And he negotiated up to 20,000, which is $150, $155. But like, it's what these people do for a living. So call him I have seen comparisons calling him IRL Monkey D. Luffy. I've seen that people also compare him to Anthony Bourdain, which I kind of don't like, but maybe they have a point in the case of like The sheer number of people that watch iShowSpeed, and he is introducing like especially Americans, but a lot of people globally to other cultures. I don't see it either. He's too goofy. The way I've heard people describe him as Anthony Bourdain without like the poetic and philosophizing. Or the poetic philosophizing. There we go. That's better. But like, I just don't see that. I can see how it's good that somebody that like even young people all around the globe watch him. Because apparently they do. Apparently a massive number of his following are kids. And when he goes places, those kids show up. Yeah, I think he's just, the way I see it is he's just a goofy guy exploring the world, like an open mind. Like the surprise that I've seen of clips scrolling TikTok of him being in like, I don't think it was Zimbabwe where he was at the time, but a lot of times he'll like go places and he'll be in the car and like look out and he'll be like, this looks just like America. Rubber bands, man. Rubber bands, man. Wax poetic. Don't I always? He's goofy, but I guess he does some good. I mean, there's worse content creators out there. At least iShowSpeed, as goofy as he is, you learn stuff from his streams. You don't learn jack diddly shit from Mr. Beast. You don't learn a goddamn thing from Mr. Beast. Although, unless you watch him and you're deciding how not to be. Because, like, you can't do what Mr. Beast does without obscene amounts of money already. Otherwise, there's nothing to learn. He's not Asmongold, and that's pretty pog. Why do you keep saying pog today? Also, what's his name? Logan Paul, isn't he retiring from wrestling after he got his shit rocked? In Saudi Arabia, so many that they got to make a carnival/theme park in Riyadh. Yes, because it's totally because there's fans and not totally because Saudi Arabia is trying to whitewash their own image. That was Jake? Okay, Jake Paul. Really? Wait, is that right? That doesn't feel right. I guess it was. Damn, I really can't tell the difference between these two fucks. Crazy. Crazy. With Mr. Beast, you can learn how far someone will go for money. You can watch a person degrade into an alien in real time. I never watched the Paul brothers. It's better for my mental. I've never watched them either. Like, the first time I ever saw anything about the Paul brothers, and I'm not even joking, is the time they recorded a suicide corpse in the Akigahara forest. And then they got deported. And it wasn't even like their own video. It was a clip that somebody took. I wish he got more fists in the face. Well, he got a fist in the face, broke his jaw, had surgery, and then had to get, I wish I was joking, a lace beard. The man is wearing the equivalent of a wig on his face. To ruin Puerto Rico's, though, anytime they get their shit rocked, they celebrate. Oh, God, what are they doing on Puerto Rico? That's deeply concerning. And they're not to ever listen to them? Yeah. Yeah. And I'm lucky I've never fallen into, like, watching a nuisance streamer of some kind, or, like, I was about to say, I've never fallen in with a problematic streamer. And then I remember what has happened to Keffels in recent years and the shit that Keffels has said. And then I remember that I was a Keffels mod. Christ. You mean a face rug? Yes, a face rug. Hi, Hectic. How are you doing? We're on for Mage this week, right? Be like marriage, shaking my head. I learn. I change. I'm willing to. Yes. Nice. Nice. It's office raid time. Also, we have a couple minutes till ad break, so let me make sure I get a game for y'all. What do we want to do? Words? I don't like emote search. I think we'll just do what we... Wait. Save the deal? Oh, right. This one was way too hard. Okay. I was gonna say, save the deal. Save the deal was the one that was like, wait, like if there's even slightly a delay on stream, you can't play it. You can't play it. Hitting Hardy Hearth where they live? Yes. Have fun chatting. Have a good time, Queens. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for chilling, and thank you if you're gonna lurk. They do most of their business in Puerto Rico, including bringing out their partners, collaborators, and influencer friends, taking them to ruin local spots and attract more outsiders that don't fucking respect PR. God, I hate people sometimes. I'm thinking. One of those things that deeply concerns me when I see like big creators essentially either one, turn into terrible people, two, turn on their friends and all morals, or three, become so money hungry. It's frankly, it's disgusting. And I've seen it both across VTubers and just like regular streamers to the point where sometimes I'm afraid of success. I don't think it's going to change me. I can say up and down every single day. I won't be different. I won't change. I don't know how true that is. I hope to God I don't change as a person and I still keep to my guns, my morals, and most of my friends. I studied psychology. I learned to hate people on a fundamental level. I had psychology in college too, and it's one of those courses that kind of changes your perspective at times. Not to know who Keffels is. You don't need to know who Keffels is. I don't know what pronouns they go by now, because when I was the mod, it was they. But they're trans, have like full bottom surgery and everything, to the point where I remember them talking about their dad was like dying from cancer and he wanted to make sure that they were happy in their life. So he paid for their bottom surgery. But I've seen like chat and even people like talking about them using she. So I don't know what the deal is. Whenever I watched them, it was kind of just talk news, talk politics on occasion, and then watch ordinary sausage videos. Oh, and we played New World, that one MMO. Biological consequences of being surrounded by yes men having powers equivalent to a TBI? TBI. I don't know the acronym off the top of my head. The fame is already getting to her. The thing is, the reason I say most of friends is because in this field, people come and go. They just do. Like, some people will graduate and then just completely detach from the friends that they had when they were a streamer. And it's happened. It's happened in the past. But ad break is about to start. Let me do this thingamadoohickey. Boop. Oh, right. Maybe I should make a button so that it's easier to toggle that. Oh, well. Oh, well. Who you choose to be friends with? Yes. I was not very careful when I was starting out, like my first couple years. Really, I was just willing to interact with any person that was willing to talk to me. And then like over time, I realized sometimes how bad of an idea that is. Just abandon streaming because Jesus? Yeah, that's what I mean by like most friends, is because sometimes people will just decide they can't do it anymore, have a breaking point, and then disappear. Especially because if you see yourself as a failure and you leave streaming, I honestly, I don't know how I would feel if I was still hanging out with all my friends that were like, if I quit streaming, I would not want to abandon my friends. But at the same time, I think sitting in chat with like all my old streamer friends, not streaming anymore and all that jazz would feel fucking terrible. It would feel awful. I was that to a group I was in for 6 months. They didn't notice I'd left. Oof, pain. Pain. So your fame is getting to their heads? What? I don't understand. But it happens. Friends come and go, especially in like adult life. Listen, sometimes you may have a friend that you see every week for several weeks on end, and then suddenly you just never see them again. Schedules could change, things could be different. And sometimes you do end up with those friendships that are like, especially if you're like socially exhausted, where, and I know people sometimes give the idea of a friendship of convenience a bad name. I call those friends coworkers. Yeah, kind of. I'll give y'all another round. Y'all better not lose the second round. But hi Zed, how are you doing? But it's one of those things where it's like in adult life, sometimes those friendships that are easy to maintain are the best ones. Like if you have a hobby, if you go to like hobby stores, so you play Warhammer, you play card games, you do that stuff, you see each other at that store all the time. Of course, other stuff can blossom out of that. You could go to the bar afterwards. You could start hanging out and going to the movies and do other stuff together. But those friendships that start as convenience friendships when they're mutual hobbies and stuff are the easiest to enjoy. And that's also kind of the point where they will either blossom into a closer friendship or they will fall away. And usually the fall away is not often anybody's fault. It's often change in schedules or moving or shit like that. Like I think about the friends that I made when I used to go regularly to the card shop when I was in college. And I was really tight with the owner of the store to the point where I actually got to go to his family's bar after hours, and we'd hang out, we'd drink, we'd chat. It was a good time. I had a great time. And then COVID hits and everything shut down and everybody was home. So we didn't like do anything together anymore in years. But I'm that one homie that sends ungodly amount of memes. Listen, I like getting memes. Thing is, like, I think back to some of my like high school friends and stuff. And the memes that they sent back then were nowadays I would consider problematic. Just because like we were kids in a rural Texas town. So you can kind of imagine the raunchy memes and jokes that we would send around. Difficulty impossible. Hi, Kono. How are you doing? All right, let's put this away. And we can go back to the desk. Desk. I like my desk. Glasses. All right. COVID did everyone dirty? I agree. I agree. Granted, I was in college at the time. It was my last semester when COVID hit the US. So I had to do botany experiments in my apartment. COVID made my life significantly better. Well, yeah, you're a work from home lawyer. Desk of the Clown. It was kind of a cheap Amazon desk. Same class as 2020, baby. Let's go. Totally legal botany experiments? No, it was totally legal. I was basically testing the survivability of farm plants, farm staples under salinity conditions. So I was effectively testing fractions of salt water. And thinking back on it was a terrible experiment because if it came out with positive results, it would basically mean that farming Texas wetlands was a feasible way to grow additional food. And now that I think about it, Finding that out would have been fucking terrible. Student loans for 2 years forced courts to update their remote appearances so I didn't have to go to court nearly as much anymore. Made hybrid law possible. True. Why? Because then imagine if major industrial companies and stuff, farming companies, found out that they could buy up Texas marshlands and then just put farm on it with all the pesticides that usually comes with that. Which makes me a little glad that it wasn't feasible. The thing too is this Texas actually protects its wetlands pretty well. For every square foot of wetlands that something else is like put on. So like, let's say you build, this is an example that one of my teachers had, because he would actually do this outside of teaching. He had to come in and measure every inch of where they were basically putting a hotel that used to be marshland. And he measured it. And the company that made the hotel then had to go somewhere else and essentially re-marshify the same amount of area. If COVID didn't happen, I'd have gone to grad school and be a therapist by now. I work in IT. Ooh. The teacher PNG. Teacher PNG. It'd take a minute to get the teacher PNG set up. I don't know why, but Marin is like a teacher learning us. I mean, I like teaching people things. I don't think I could ever be like a public school teacher. I think at best, I'm like one of those YouTubers that calls themselves a science educator. At best. Wetlands. Yes, wetlands. I mean, Texas wetlands are some of the most unique biodiversity on the planet. Shockingly. Shockingly. My favorite people are those that share knowledge. It's time to learn. You will always be learning. Also, chat, do we want to do the Dubai food? I kind of want to do the Dubai food. I'm not gonna lie. Time to start the Dark Carnival education program. I mean, I may have something working on in the background for it. The thing is, I just don't have the funds for it right now. I am working on a side project. And by working on it, I mean, I'm basically working on a design for it. Because everything else is money, and I have had no money. Doobie foods, not doobie food? That is the question. I just ate, so I've saved my money. Ooh. Like, yeah, the carnival's biggest problem has always been money. The corona changed my military service, so we had to stay in for 4 weeks at a time, then 2 weeks at home. Interesting. Yeah, it's also too, when we had like the complete shutdown in Texas, that shit lasted 3 days. 3 days. I complain about this to this day. It took 3 days before people were fucking out throwing signs. Fucking people couldn't fathom staying home for 3 days with their families. I'm convinced most people apparently just hate their families. Oh, it basically never shut down. You're right. Like, Walmart never shut down. No grocery store ever shut down. But yeah, 3 days was how long it took for me to start seeing people standing on corners carrying signs that was just open the state, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, are you insane? Or are you just a psychopath? I wouldn't want to stay home with my family for 3 days. I live with my cats for a reason. Well, I mean, you would be at your own home. And I mean, the families, like a lot of the people that I even remember seeing on the news being interviewed for them, quote unquote, protesting, were like middle-aged men and like middle-aged women. That I can only imagine the reason was because they didn't want to be stuck at home with their kids constantly, or stuck at home with their spouses constantly. I'm convinced most American marriages are just miserable, guys. I am slowly being convinced. Happy marriages are in the extreme minority. You tell the Floridian they can't go to Publix. Publix isn't even that good of a grocery store. Because people went from unskilled labor to essential workers and here is back to unskilled labor. Exactly. Exactly. That was when I moved to New England. They were still very much like just coming out of the like COVID shutdown. So I was getting hazard pay at the job that I had because the city had an ordinance that said every what was it? Every hospitality or more like tourism related job counted as hazard pay. And because technically I was an escape room designer, I counted as tourism. Will you fake sponsor our D&D campaign? We're doing fake carnival ads for B-roll? Hell yeah. Hell yeah, I would do it. You mean people who rushed into marriage and children while like half knowing a person because of cultural expectations? Crazy. Yeah. Who would have thought? It's not a cute story and picture. The other day, my dad was scraping ice off the car's window. My mom was on her phone. She heard the scraping stop and looked out her window. Her dad was grinning at her after he carved a heart in the ice. That's so cute. I love my soon-to-be wife. She's amazing. Yeah, no. I hate to say it, B. You are in the minority. That's what it feels like at times. Like too many families are just miserable around each other. I am kind of miserable around my family. I'm not gonna lie. I am not the biggest fan. It's a double-edged blade. Good things happen, bad things happen. Yeah, but it always comes back to how you treat each other. Do you approach the bad things happening together, or do you just, what's the word, angrily stare at each other? I'm going to go with that. I'm so glad I statistically avoided my first divorce. I did too. I also avoided teen pregnancy. Glare? Glare. What do you mean glare? And know that the other sex wouldn't. More people need to love their spouses. Agreed. Like lights? Of angry look? Oh, yeah. Glare is a good one. Glare is a good one. Did I say angry look? Maybe I did. I don't know. I have so many thoughts running through my head. I forget what I said 2 sentences back after I said it. The amount of satanic panics my extended family subjected me to has pretty much burned the bridge. Don't you just love moral panics? Aren't moral panics great, chats? Aren't they fantastic? Aren't absolutely deranged religious people thinking demons are real fantastic? And they think video games are corrupting people's minds? Aren't you so glad the population is so well educated to be able to determine fucking fiction from reality? Jesus Christ. Ugh. Half doomer, half overly optimistic all the time with no middle ground? Insane. Insane. I only listened to Disturbed and they tried to force my parents to send me to Bible school. That's fucking insane. You're not supposed to tell them that, Sunstar. You're not supposed to tell them. I just love being told maybe you're taking in too much violent media. You mean the US military propaganda I'm watching in the movie theater? AKA Transformers? The demons are real. The RPG books tell me so. I've seen some people legitimately think that. They will open a like D&D book or any kind of book, and they will see a picture of something that is like obviously fiction, and they describe it as a demon. And then these religiously delusional people will immediately believe that they are real. That by seeing this picture of a demon, acknowledging it as a demon, it becomes real to them. Whatever's on that page is now real to that person, and I cannot imagine living life like that. Just don't be online. The thing too is like, I refuse to be both ignorant is the word I'm looking for, but uneducated, unaware. I can't. I'm too much of a curious fucking bug to just be like, yeah, I can totally ignore the things that are happening in the world. Baron, for the next week, you're not allowed to go look at any news, see any current events, or do anything of the sort. And then it's just the Ed and Eddie side eye. Okay. Play some wholesome Christian games like Doom and Wolfenstein, riddling the worlds of demons. No, we go play World of Darkness, obviously. We go play the World of Darkness. Depicts Optimus Prime shielding people from ice. You know that you're on the wrong side of history if you're fighting against Optimus. I mean, Ultimate Batman was beating the shit out of ice and then racist. Baron playing Farming Game Week when? I do have Farming Sim. I think it's Farming Sim like 21 or something. Something like that. You're not allowed to look at anything news related. Finally, thank God. Too bad. I will waste away. I need to know. I need to know things that are happening. Wad Talk, quick, what changeling would Marin play? Ooh. Either one of the ocean themed ones, like the Merfolk or something, or I'm trying to remember one of the giant species. But I can't remember most of them off the top of my head because changeling is like the one that I know the least amount. I know so little about changeling. Like, honestly, the ones I know the most are mage and vampire. I barely know werewolf. I barely know hunter. I know a little bit about wraith. I know very little about mummies aside from the lore. I have not played Demon the Fallen, nor have I read the book. I know nothing about deviants. Orpheus, I know very little about other than its lore. Changeling Dark Ages shit was like halfway between mage and vampire. Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, changelings I know have a lot more that they can do than like vampires, but not as much as compared to mages. Swamp Hag. I could do Swamp Hag. Hag. You looking for something, sweetie? You got any smokes? Can I help you? Yes, I am going to be buying my pack of Marlboro 100s with coins, please and thank you. Oh shit, I knocked my water over. Oh my goodness. Mike Wazowski. I've got my eyes on you. Oh my goodness. Just think of the secretary from Monsters, Inc. Yeah. Have some flavor, go for the Camel Crush, not the... Oh no, it's Chiefs. We're smoking Chiefs over here. That's going on the fan page? Oh shit. That's actually uploaded another short just before stream. It's actually an old one. It's the one back when we played the Digimon game and I was bullying Nex. Because Nex was keeping secrets from me, that rat bastard. I miss clipping. You can always clip, Sunstar. What do you mean you miss clipping? You can always clip things. Marriage is the monster from the movie. I know it. Shh. Listen, if I was here to do powering by screams, I'm doing a terrible job. We have not done anything horror related in a month. A month. The bug, Marin, the bug? Wait, you can't clip because of a bug? Wait, what are the bugs? That's fine. I dislike horror. The whole channel is supposed to be horror themed. Oh, you did, but I forgot what it was. I think I added it to my favorites. Again, I don't have any money for new games. I have no money to buy games. So I have to like break out the backlog and see what I have that we haven't played. And it just don't. Oh, I gotcha. Thing is too, if you make it like bigger, if you make the bar bigger than it needs to be, when I download the clip for editing later, I can just snip it. It's no big deal to do snips. I'd rather it be too big than too small. Because if it's too big, I just snip it when I'm editing it. If it's too small, I have to go back into the VOD and re-clip it and delete yours. If horror, why Pretty Lady? Why not? What better way to terrify people than to give it a lovely massage over the front first? Start mid-sentence and end mid-sentence? That is weird. Yeah, I haven't done any horror this year. That's correct. 2026 has been a non-horror year. Oh God. We almost hit 2 weeks. 2 weeks to the year we haven't done spooky shit. I guess I have to do spooky shit tomorrow. Enjoy your lurk, Murdoch. Reminded of that scene about the best quality of terror from Fate Zero? Is that the one? Oh geez, is it what Castor says? Does Castor say something like that? The limits of capitalism? Yes. More like the proclivities of capitalism. I can't believe Varen's replacing all my hard-made clips. Hey, only if they're not big enough. Bluebeard? Bluebeard? That's not Fate Zero, is it? Oh, it is. Okay, never mind. It is Castor. I was gonna say it's Gillisil Reyes, but Bluebeard. I was gonna say I pictured it right. It was Castor. As insane as he looks, he still has a crazy good design. Why did they call him Bluebeard? But yeah, good character. Very good character. He's very, very ominous, especially with the caster version having the big ass gangly arms. That's good shit. That's good shit. Step inside, step inside. Hello, Salmon Fox. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Well, that's his actual name. That's his actual name. It's not his name for just his what do they call him? Saber. For his saber form. That's his name. He was the right hand of Jeanne d'Arc. Darkenstein 3D is free. It's like Wolfenstein. The game is full for free on Steam. Darkenstein? Really? Darkenstein 3D. You know one thing I haven't played since I added it to my library? Good lord. Inspired by Wolfenstein and Doom. Love letter to the game's divided generation with a few modern touches of its own. Add to library. But it's a mistake. Historical conflation is actually different because Fate is dumb. They're the same person, though. Isn't that the bit? But his caster version is somebody who is basically a version of him that got completely corrupted following the execution of Jean. VGM 2 replay win. I'm kind of waiting for some of the updates that they say are coming. Never killed his wife? Yeah, that's what I'm saying is they're basically two alternative lines, but they're the same person. They do that stuff all the time where they'll have heroic spirits from different timelines where just slightly different variances happened. Elizabeth Bathory versus Carmilla, same person, different manifestations. Well, Carmilla is fictional. She's just based off of Elizabeth Bathory. Carmilla is the fictional character. Yeah, and the same thing too. They will do that from different parts of their stories, which is also why we get like King Arthur in so many different versions. Titania as in the Queen of the Fairies. Isn't Oberon also in it? Hollow Knight still like, oh wait, you added? Never mind. I mean, I do have Silk Song, but I don't know jack diddly shit about this game because one of y'all gave it to me. Yeah, there's Caster Gilgamesh, which is an earlier in his life Gilgamesh. Archer Gilgamesh is like towards the end of his reign. That is an interesting sip emote. Could we do a night movie for the next movie night? Like maybe the Green Knights? No. No. I pick the movies on a whim. It could be a spooky movie or it could be something that's relevant to things going on. No, I don't know anything about Hollow Knight because I've never had any interest in playing it. The kid? Are you talking about Billy the Kid? I fucking ordained was blessed by R and Jesus? What? What happened? Did y'all roast stats? Is that what this is about? I feel like this is just, we're going to find out that Ordain has like 2 18s. That's backwards. Caster Gilgamesh is near the end after he was humbled. Oh. Really? But. Is it? Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but I guess. Fall of Avalon's amazing Dark King Arthur story reminds me of Oblivion with more dark RPG stuff in it. Oh. Silksong game design is horrid, is it? I haven't heard anything bad about the game, but I know so many people were ridiculously excited for it. You know what we do need to do, Chance? We still need to finish One Way. Oh my god, it is a Ninja Sex Party version. I didn't even realize that. What the fuck? Horrid skill issue, yes. Amazing things in the game, but the devs really, really fucked up the difficulty curve and difficulty in general. I mean, it is a 2D Souls-like. I thought the difficulty was the point. Okay, I'm gonna make a bit here. But it's not real. Jade, the French complaining something is too hard is so on par that I'm not even surprised. Skill issue. So song wasn't meant to be a standalone. It plays like a Hollow Knight. It was material. Don't talk about my luck hyper. What did you do? Is gonna be our tank? What did you do, Artane? What did you roll? What did you roll, Ordain? Yeah, difficult doesn't make it a bad game. I don't think, does Hollow Knight have difficulty settings? I don't think it does. I imagine it doesn't if its goal is to be like a Souls-like. Wait. What system are you using? Wait. What stat system? Are you not doing the like 4d6 take highest 3? Was it 3? I don't think it was 3. Hold on. Damn it. I don't remember the system that we used. It was like 4d6. The highest you could technically get at the time from those rolls, I'm pretty sure was 18. Okay, drop lowest. Yeah, okay, it was drop lowest. But rolling at 21? That's insane. Haven't played D&D. I'm kind of playing it fast and loose. I gotcha. I mean, that's what, a +5 bonus on strength rolls, right? You don't get +6 until 22, right? You didn't just roll a D20 for him, did you? Listen, I rolled a D100. Okay, let's see these stats. What did you get? 21, 12, 13, 15, 18, 16? Good Lord. Okay, but the low constitution though? Interesting. Hi, Eldechi. How are you doing? Rolling on Stevie Wonder? Very superstitious. Do you want to try that phrase again? Racial feat bonuses? Feats? What are racial feats? What if you did a react to the chaotic good barbarian? Chaotic good barbarian animation? I have no idea what that is. Still a game on your Steam for me you've never touched? Elderborn? Oh, shit. I do remember this game in terms of seeing it and you sending it to me. But I'm not gonna lie. It doesn't look good. The description, Elderborn, a metal as fuck slasher with brutal FPP melee combat and Souls-like just RPG character progression. In the times of legends, barbarian tribes need a new dark messiah. Crazy. Be that merciless player, uncover ancient secrets in the city of doom, forge your own destiny, and then asterisk action fantasy. Oh, metal AF is then an asterisk is it's not as fuck, it's action fantasy. Would you take a look at Look Outside? Oh, I've seen Horror play this. Granted, I have no fucking clue what this game is. I don't get it. Survival horror RPG set in a single apartment building. Mysterious event turns anyone who looks out the window into grotesque monsters, leaving the world in absolute chaos. Scavenge the building to seek food, supplies, and weapons while encountering strange creatures. Okay. Wait, which part? What is Light asking? The only boss that felt frustrating for me was the Radiance. When you had to fight the sun. Less health than a Hollow Knight. Boss do double damage if you touched them. To fix this, they would feel so... not feel so frustrating. Also, you have to farm resources like in Bloodborne. Not fun. Huh. Is something good Cosmic Horror Hope Core? Hope Core? Look outside? No, it is not on my throne because like I said, I didn't have any interest in it because I didn't understand it as a game. I see just a dark street. Yeah, I don't remember seeing anybody have to do resource farming in Silksong when it came out. Sounds like someone ran past mobs instead of killing them. With a Cosmic Horror theme. That makes sense. Here, I'm actually going to look something up real quick. Browse. Categories. Tags. Where's my horror tag? All right. What is good in the horror tag right now? Path of Exile, apparently. Jesus Christ. Kathy Rain 2 Soothsayer. Point and click urban thriller. Down and out private eye. Kathy Rain will embark on the most dangerous case yet. The pursuit of a notorious serial killer. Known as the Soothsayer. Find clues, gather evidence, connect the dots, and confront the murderer before the hunter becomes the hunted. This weirdly looks like the original, what is that cyberpunk movie? Blade Runner. It looks like the original, like, Atari Blade Runner game. I've never played a Pathologic game. I've heard they're hard as shit. There's a lot of pixel horror games being shown off here. Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon? That woman just had swords come out of her chest. Welcome back, Genshin Impact. Friendly Neighborhood is the horror game from Aaron. Friendly Neighborhood. Oh, there is a Pathologic 3. Why didn't I know there was a Pathologic 3? A wish list. Wait. That looks like the same town from 2. Is it just a continuation of 2? Same place, same everything? Oh, it came out this week? Crazy. Although it does kind of look like it used default Unreal models for the characters. Like, it looks weirdly identical to, like, Autopsy Sim. Or no, pathologist assistant? Mortuary assistant, that's it. Mortuary assistant. Daniel Dinkowski? Wait, the doctor? You just replay it again as the doctor? From 2? That's so weird. Yeah, it was what? The Horror Specs, The Changeling, and The Bachelor? Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know, even though I've never played the game. I totally wasn't because I just watched the HH Bomber Guy video again for the second time, like Sunday, because somebody posted it in the Discord and reminded me that it existed. We also never played Silent Hill. F. But I don't have it. I was really hoping to get a key for it, but I am not spending $70 for a fucking game. Blizzard. Darkwood is the great one. I struggle with top-down games, and I know people recommend Darkwood to high heaven. I have no interest. Like zero interest. What's more gay, being gay or whatever is going on with Artemi and Danielle? Truly a wonder. Truly a wonder. Oh, right. Code Vein 2 is coming out. Oh, shit. Resident Evil Requiem comes out February. Into February. Come on, let's step into the macabre halls of the Dark Carnival. And next, please, enjoy the show. Why is everyone so pretty? What are you playing? Hades 2? Oh, you're screwed. You're screwed. Yep. Everyone in that game is gorgeous. Have you made it to the bathtub scenes yet? Next, have you made it? Have you seen the bath scenes? But I was really looking to see what games were like people were liking right now, but new and trending, that works. Of course, Pathologic 3 came out the 9th. Shit. Scamline. 4 to 8 person social deception game where you party will face different challenges, become a liar, manipulator, or cheater, and find your own paths to victory. Why does it? Hold on, why does it look like bootleg? What's it called? I'm brain farting. Bootleg, Squid Game. It looks like a mix of Squid Game and that one, is it Kafka? I think it's called Kafka. That one game where you're like a salvager going down through a long abandoned mega building that's like run with monsters and stuff. But sad thing is, though, is I have no money for these games. So looking at these is 90% just to see what's out now, because I don't look at games that often. Pathologic 2 sometime. You may not like it, but if you do, it's such an incredible experience. I never played something like it in my 33 years. I've been kind of curious about it since I saw the since I was watching the HH Bomber Guy video. It actually does seem really interesting to play through. Wait a second. Hold on. There. Let me double check. Wait, what is this? Oh, it's the prologue. Oh, apparently at some point I got the free prologue. It's in my library. Huh. Pinwheel of Corpses. Oh, this game for 3 years now? Playing on Twitch? I'm here. I think I will. Let me double check though, because what I was doing was I was also opening Epic Games because I thought I had it somewhere. What other platforms would it be on? GOG? Games. Get out of here. Jesus, those are not the games I expected to find on here. No. Why did I think I had it? Weird. AI that made my friends hate him. Let me check. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the Epic Games CEO that was like, you better get used to having AI because games are all going to have AI eventually, or we better be allowed to remove the like AI claim on game descriptions. Over its ability to AI generate pornographic images, minors just gatekeeping, attempting to censor all their political opponents. Holy shit. I mean, that's at least why I don't spend money on Epic Games. I only get their free shit. That's all I do. That's all I do. Speaking of free shit. Also, fun fact chat, Detroit Become Human is $8 right now. Wait, why would I advocate for Epic Games here? Even though I do have a code with them. Let's go check out Green Man, actually. Green Man Gaming. Because I'm affiliated with them instead. How much is Detroit over here? Wait, they're not selling Detroit? What do you mean you're not selling Detroit? Damn it, Green Man. You've let me down again. Although... nope. Nothing that bounces out at me in that one. Oh my god, Tuca. Definitely is on the list. He's on the list. He's on the list. Okay. So in 2 days, 2 days from now, both of the Styx games, basically the Thief game where you play as a magic goblin, are going to be free on Epic Games come Thursday. Right now it's Bloons TD6, Bloons Tower Defense 6. A better option, don't buy Detroit ads. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Is like, it's $8 over here, which is a good deal technically. But with what the CEO just said, fuck them. Don't give them their money. That's another thing for Christmas. I want y'all's opinion on this. Here it is. On Christmas, Epic Games gave away Hogwarts Legacy. I picked it up. I did. I've had it downloaded. I literally haven't launched it. But I have an idea. What do y'all think in June of doing a charity stream or like a charity marathon of us playing Hogwarts Legacy for a trans charity? I don't think you should try it sometime. It's very useful. I highly recommend it. David Cage. Who is David Cage? Oh, this guy does look like a fucking hack. Baldur's Gate emotes. Wait, what? What do y'all think? I want your opinion. Otherwise, I'll probably never play this game. Nothing? Nobody's got an opinion, or everybody hated that? I just wanted to know. I wanted to pitch it. It was free on Epic Games. So I was like, yoink, it's a $70 game. It's mine now. Why don't we do a chance charity come June for Pride Month? Do you even think that's a good idea? That's the thing is, I don't know for sure. Like, it sounds like it could be fun. I mean, I'd probably just be taking the piss out of the game anyway, because the Harry Potter world building is fucking trash. Heavy Rain. Detroit Become Human is a great game, Jade. Okay, Heavy Rain, I understand. But Detroit Become Human's a fantastic game. Although we do need to play Beyond Two Souls at some point. Because it's bad. Entirely because... Actually, didn't I put a bounty up for that one? Isn't that one of the ones that's like, if we hit a point, I will do the whole fucking game? If you play the Hogwarts game? Well, I mean, if it's very obviously a charity stream. I'm starting to think Jade has terrible taste in games too. I have no strong feelings whatsoever. Via bandwidth, you should so do it. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Right? Yes. Yes, we do. I did have it scheduled at one point, but I think... Also, hi, J Sizzle. I'm sorry I missed you. Thank you for the self-care. 7 minutes ago, dude. I'm sorry. I mean, the focus of the stream instead would be for the charity. And I would definitely have like banners or something that was like, I got the game for free at Christmas. I wasn't even given the game by the company. It was free off Epic Games. But that's exactly it. You're right, Eldetching. You're kind of right there. That was like the middle ground that I'm very confused on. Well, not even confused. Conflicted. Conflicted's the word. Don't buy this game. It's trash. Correct. Correct. I mean, we could do it. We still have a long time to plan it. We could do it. I'm not going to do some shit either, like get assets for like the model or anything, because why the fuck would I do that? It's roasting time, baby. Oh, wait, where was it? Hectic said it. No political commentary relating to race in the game where you play as an enslaved black man in Detroit. None of the androids you play as are black, but I mean, if you play it right, you do get a, like, quote, I'm going to call them party members. You do get a party member that's a large black android. But, like, that's just as tone deaf as it gets. Did he even look at the game? That's insane. You don't make a game about androids essentially gaining sentience and wishing for independence and fighting for it and be like, there's no social commentary here whatsoever. Okay, so your brain is flat, is what I'm hearing. Me poking him in the forehead. You got too much goddamn space up there, bud. He directed it? That's insane. What the fuck did he think he was directing? I'm flabbergasted. That's insane. Did he direct it or just take credit for directing it? Ugh. Average CEO behavior. Same time, how spoilers do we want to go with this game? I mean, it's been a long time. I've played it twice. Last time I played it was 2020? 2020 at least. And I did have a physical copy and a PlayStation for it. Detroit Become Human is the game about the escort bot who hates being an escort bot. Maybe? I mean, we get detective robots, we get artist assistant robots, and we get homemade robots. Was there... Oh, the investigation one. The investigate when they go to the what is essentially a android brothel, and they find the two lesbian androids. If a chatter wanted to give you a game for stream but let you pick it, what would you pick and how would one do it? Ooh, that's a good question. Here, we could do something. What if I made a throne thing for it? Would we want to do that? I do have the very specific use one. So like the buy a meal, the bar fund, which is to buy like a bottle of booze of some kind. I have the motorcycle course one, which is to eventually to get my motorcycle license. The book fund, which is just to buy a book, and then the monthly meds. I played Signalis. Ignoring CEO, even the intro screen for Detroit got me feels. Yeah. Like after you beat the game, and if you do the like free the androids in game, she leaves. She's gone. She just goes. I mean, the motorcycle safety courses are expensive. I think this one's set to like 700.
Well, look at you.
Because that's what it costs locally. Piece of crap. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Somebody just duking in my chats. Then the problem with the game is when you talk to the Android creators and he says, oh yeah, they're not becoming sentient. I literally upload a virus that makes them able to malfunction like this. I remember the creator's house and his weird assistants, androids, but I don't remember. No, it's expensive here, and I genuinely don't know why. I thought it was... Let me double check. Let me click it. Hello? Click. Click. Oh, no. Okay, it's 330 is apparently the subtotal. Well, it's 329.25 for some reason. The Duke of Chats? Duke of Chats? Motorcycles are special interest? I love motorcycles. I want to get a Honda someday. I'll probably start with like hopefully like a was it like a used Honda, not a Grom, not a Phantom. I do like Phantoms. What are they called? God damn it. Hold on. Apparently also the Honda motorcycle TikTok page has been weirdly active in people's messages, and it's kind of weird. Okay, hold on. Where is it? Rebel. That's it. I want a Rebel. I'm fine with getting like a used Honda Rebel as like my first bike. I'm a sucker for Hondas. I'm sorry, okay? E-clutch. What is the Rebel 300 E-clutch? Is it automated clutch? But never have to worry about stalling. Oh, interesting. Fun and control of shifting, but don't have to worry about stalling. Huh. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I know some Rebels are automatic. Well, I have to do the course. I have to do the course. I think it's over like 2 weekends here. Also, hold on. You just reminded me.
Come all and step into the macabre halls of the Dark Carnival.
Dresden, welcome in. Hold on a second.
Enjoy the show.
Okay, no, Throne Alert still exists. It was the Kofi one that was broken last time. Why did that sound like a microwave going off? Welcome in, narrators. How was your stream? Did you have a good time? What were you arting? What shenanigans were you up to? What trouble did you get into? Welcome in, welcome in. I'm a dirty Harley guy, but I own both Harleys and Hondas. Brother. That's just the meme I keep seeing on fucking motorcycle TikTok. There's somebody who was like, Hey guys, just in case you ever wanted to simulate what it's like to drive a Honda, they put these weird little strips on the side of a road, and the dude like veers to the side and hits the rumble strip and just goes, brother. To give you Pathologic 2, you'd rather me gifting it on Steam or giving you bits? I'll do it after my night shift. If you do bits, I have to wait till next payday. If you have me added on Steam, you can just gift it to me there. The Cloudflare, are you a robot thing that could have been fixed? Oh. With rattle teeth? Oh, good lord. Thank you, Big. Thank you for buying a season pass. Holy shit. Sudoku is forever. Sudoku is forever. Sudoku? Are you playing Sudoku? Believe it or not, subs and bits are not economical. Correct. You can also just give it straight, like whatever it costs right now, straight to me on Ko-fi. And I can buy it pretty shortly because it goes straight to my, from Ko-fi, it goes straight to my PayPal. Brother. A bit of doodling, some Sudoku on stream, then decided since I'm the streamer, I can stream Sudoku, so I made a thumbnail for when I play Sudoku. Oh no. How much Sudoku did you play? Somebody wants to get me Pathologic 2. But it would be easier on Ko-fi. If you want to just send me the money for whatever it currently costs on Steam for Pathologic 2, that would be easier because then I can actually get it today and download it tonight. Only one round, 30 minutes, then only art. Gotcha. It's a little wrist warm up, isn't it? A little wrist warm up. But I was double checking. I know sometimes you can add, I know for a goddamn fact, I have the not safe for work shit disabled. So why the fuck am I getting butt plug demon tails, punish me daddy card games, soul snatch, whatever the fuck that is, and come load unscented something or other? Man, sometimes I really hate Throne, guys. Sometimes I really, really hate Throne. I've come to make an announcement. What the fuck? It's not even like it's, oh, it is for you. But it's like the category that it's selected is sensual wellness. Why? Why is that a category? And then as soon as I scroll down, it's gamer chairs and Elgato products. And a sweater dress for some reason. Huh. It's not even candles. It looks like a bottle. Oh, it's water-based lube. It's lube. All right. Who the fuck buys that? Schmonly schmans? Schmansley? Those people, they also use Throne. And people are much more willing to buy them stuff on the regular. So I'm guessing in Throne's like algorithm. Because the very next category under the For You is lingerie. Oh, hey, gal, panties. Why do you exist? What's under the luxury category? Gucci Stars and Moon button-up hoodie for $1,600. $5,000 Louis Vuitton Supreme belt bag. $2,500 Chanel Bays caviar medallion purse. This is awful. I hate it. Christ. Yeah, this is why I don't often use like Throne's own like gift store type shit, because it's awful. Which is why like almost every single one of mine are like custom links that I put in myself. We do also have the Switch. I still want to play Kirby Air Riders. What's going on your side? It's Throne. Throne just wants you to like buy the stuff that people are most buying. So it recommends them, and it's that, unfortunately. I could buy a gold wing. Sometimes I hate it when I learn new things. Yes. Sometimes learning can be awful. They never actually get the pushback to keep things properly labeled as not safe for work when it's a not safe for work product. Remember that time they didn't want you saying something was adult product because of Stripe? Yes. Also, you shouldn't say things like that for PayPal. If you're buying things and using PayPal, wait, why do I have the thing that says out of stock? The Switch? Huh? Unavailable or out of stock. Please pick replacements. Okay. I mean, I have a different Switch one here, which is just crowdfunding, so it's fine. I think, right? Okay, yeah. All of these, if I remember correctly, should be set to pay out. Now I feel like I gotta double check. Because payout is easier. Okay, they all are. It's easier just in case in the future when we move and if you'll buy something, it doesn't end up getting sent to the States and just being like, well, I'm fucked. Wait, you haven't played it yet, Ordain? I thought you were telling me the other day that you were playing it. I could have swore you were telling me the other day that you were playing it. Did I misremember? Starting to think I misremembered. Shut up. Stop talking. Stop talking. I opened a video. Because we're going to do a chill cooldown time for a little bit. Ooh. Hold on. Save that real quick. That was Pokemon? I know you've been playing the shit out of Pokemon, but I thought you had already played Kirby. Why no Curb? Why you no play Curb? The ad shows the lamp that literally looks like a dick lamp. Yeah. Oh, the one that you have to like pull back on the fucking, on the foreskin. Is that the one you're thinking of? On microstream from Aaron? Give me the microstream. Yo, is that world famous microstreamer Ordain? Crazy. Mm-hmm. What the fuck is this? The song? Okay. Gritty reboot where it's called Kirby. I mean, that's basically just the Christian Kirby meme. Very good meme. Very funny animations. Go buys his punk nerd Switch 2 and Kirby so we can enjoy a happy little elf. I mean, we also have the for shits and giggles, the hold on, what was it called? It was the Glucose Guardian Fund, wasn't it? Oh, did I delete it? It's gone. It's not here. Wait, where did the Glucose Guardian thing go? Did I delete it? I don't remember deleting it. I have no memory of deleting it. The mommy jar. If you call me mommy, you have to put $10 in the jar. Book fun. Switch, Mo copying. Motorcycle. Course lessons. The bar fund. The buy Marin a meal. The epoxy, Ash emotes, camera, MetaQuest 3, remote control for the camera, and that's it. Do you think that they added a policy that you couldn't have something like, oh, true, it would, but this gives you like a flat amount for a general idea of what it's going to cost. I mean, if y'all wanted to throw like the total cost of something, like I'm going to use the Switch as an example. If you're like, I want you to have a Switch and I'm going to pay the whole amount, and you wanted to throw it at Kofi, that works totally fine. I could get the Switch tomorrow. I will go to Best Buy and get the Switch.
Step into the macabre halls of the Dark Carnival. And please, enjoy the
Balls.
show.
Hi, Thief Link. How was your stream? What is Cozy Caravan? Welcome in, Raiders. You have a good stream. What trouble did you get into? What shenanigans were you up to? Did you burn anything down? Did you set anything on fire? I doubt it in a game called Cozy Caravan. But I still have to check. Here, we're going to do... Let's add it back. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it Mysterious Benefactor. I don't remember. Did we have an art for it? I don't think we did. I'm also going to cut it in half for what it was. All right, add that to wish list. All right, now it's there. It's now, instead of the really, really high 10,000, it's now 5,000. It's probably never going to be paid, but it's funny that it's there. It's funny that it's there. Someone get this narrative cookie. I mean, a swatch. A swatch. Listen, I'd like to have the Switch, and I'd want to play it. The thing is, though, like, I've already packed up my capture card. I was just double checking, looking under the monitor if it was still there. I packed up the capture card and stuff already. So I wouldn't be able to play that stuff on stream until after the move. I would legitimately save it to play it on stream for y'all. Back to the Abyss. Have fun. Have a good night, queens. Have a good night. Mainly hers. I work in the back. You work in the back? No fires. We were talking about retail experiences. Oh, no. Oh, no. What kind of retail experiences? How bad was it? What's the worst? What's the worst? I gotta know. And same times. I know, I just say good night when people leave anyway. Have a good night. Sleep well. But yeah, I don't think I need to keep looking at Throne. Also, what is this? Okay. What was the dumbest question a customer asked you? And it can't be, do you work here? I mean, sometimes that's not a dumb question. Sometimes it's not a dumb question. If there isn't like a guaranteed uniform. And that's like the only reason. Working in fast food is fucking horrid. It's why I've avoided it my entire life. Granted, I did basically do fast food when I was running the water park because we had a food department that was like the usual, what do you call it? Food stand? I'm just going to go with that. Concession stand. That's it. Which they did try to run it at one point like it was a fast food place with like all the pre-prepping and shit. And we had to tell them that shit was not going to work. We were going to end up throwing out so much food. That's what I'm saying. I mean, sometimes it's not viewable though. But yeah, it can be the dumbest question if you have a very obvious uniform on. Half the time mine is I'm sorry to bother you. I'm looking for blah blah blah. And that blah 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 could be just about anything. What's still going to annoy me a bit in customers when they try to get me to help them when I'm not on the clock nor have a name tag or my usual attire on. That's one of those things where it's like, fuck off. No. I was going to say, if you're on the clock, it's fine. And I'll be the last person to try and bother somebody that looks like they're like off the clock or not working. A lot of the time. A lot of the time. Hmm. What the heck? Do you work here? No, this is my Halloween outfit.
Well,
I celebrate it in the
look
winter.
at you.
Religious reasons. Rin Kazakiz. Thank you for the follow. Kazakiz? Kazakiz? Kift? Kazuki VT. Okay, there we go. Kazuki VT. You should remember to capitalize those VTs. We talked about my old manager. Oh boy, manager stories. I got manager stories. I've told Chad a couple of my manager stories, like when I worked at a music hall slash restaurant slash bar place. And the general manager was a fucking ex-Marine who was going to let you know, I promise. And then, of course, if you crossed him, he was going to threaten to kill you with a pencil. Mind you, this man was 5'2". This man was 5'2". Coffee? Kofi. You can do it like this. Is it... There you go. There's a link. I'm pretty sure it's also a link down below if you scroll down. Actually, the person complained for me not assisting them because I just ignored them while not clocked in. And my manager told them essentially, too bad they're not working. They don't have to help you. Yes, correct. Exactly. Customers, the audacity of customers sometimes, man. It's insane. I will just never understand the audacity of some people that feel like...
Well, look at you.
Hello? Zanima, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. I'll do it tomorrow. Got it. Have fun. Have a good time at your night shift. I've been looking for a night shift position just because I like being up late. And it's a night shift position is always less likely to have people. I've had so many customer facing positions in my life and got a taste of not having customer facing positions when I worked at the mussel farm. And it was so nice. It was so nice. Higher risk of cancer, but I can watch Marin. What do you, this is just like, hello? Hello? Wait, what are you talking about? What are you talking about, Bertle? If a manager threatened me with death, it's going to become a game of chicken. With the emotes, that emote adds a lot to it. Increases your cancer risk. Well, that depends on if like you're kind of made for night shift. It probably also depends on the job. I really doubt it boils down to the only difference is working night shift versus not working night shift. Oh my goodness. Okay. Perfect emote for the song. What is that? Hello? In a voice that registered as local to my ears. Humans are not built for nocturnal life. Some of them are. Like, it's not even that unheard of. There are legitimately some, like, it's the thing between versus morning people and night owls. You can have a much higher proclivity to be up late at night, and it's much more beneficial for some folks. Psychologically. Okay. But I was looking to see if there was any other news, but I can't find any. Oh, good Lord. Videos AI could never recreate? Oh no. I don't think I want to watch any of those because I feel like a lot of them are going to be cringe. I love being up at night. It's quiet and no one needs nothing from me. I can gremlin in silence. Exactly. Da, 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 da. Oh, shit. I was trying to read that last part, but then it scrolled up past. Hold on. Old man was a dick. He threw away our table and Lil Tyke's hoop because he noticed we used it too much during break. We used it when we had nothing else to do. Fucking insane. When I'm dictator, I'm making class 1 felony to harass off the clock workers. Nice. Be awake anytime as long as sleep has been had at some point. I could literally go for multiple days, technically without getting tired, if I never put any effort into going to sleep. Okay, let me catch up. Can't even tell what I am anymore. Okay, got that. Cat's being tapped on my shoulder. She wants my chicken bad. Give chicken. Is human nature as a construct less than 100 years old and everything people complain about kids doing is human nature? Yeah. Yeah. Personally, I'm crepuscular. Crepuscular. Anybody who's built for nocturnal fully, more like early morning, late nights? Well, yeah. And those usually overlap, which is mutually beneficial to each other. The night owls stay up on guard until the early birds get up and then they take over. Survival, baby. Survival. It's usually the false consistency of night shifts that does the harm. It's the switching between day walking, night walking that adds the extra strain. Yes. Yes. It's God, the number of jobs I've had where the schedule was completely different, basically like week after week, was so fucking annoying. Because then every week I would basically have to be like, somebody would want to make plans. They'd be like, all right, next Friday, we're going to go. I'm sorry, guys. I can't like guarantee I'm going to be free next Friday. My work hasn't put out the schedule yet. And I would tell them, I was like, I need an identical schedule. I have school. I have off-site school responsibilities, blah, 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 blah. And still, they'd be like, okay, we can do that. And then when they make the schedule, it'd be different again. Literally nothing. Good shit. Also, people are posting Sarai's butt again on Twitter. Goofy. All right. Rush hour. Because last I knew Sensor was at 15K. Did you do these? I think you can do, let me see. Exclamation stats at oh, nope, doesn't work. Okay. I thought you could target people for it for some reason. I say that as if I can't actually just open the game and see the score. And now I wait for whoever is currently fishing to stop fishing. Atlantic cod. God, those are ugly fish. 19K, I believe, but okay. You are currently at 21.5K. Hey, Beef, do you want to... Oh, you know what your score is. You know what your score is, don't you? You know what your score is, don't you? All right. I grew a lot of gold. There is a 6K difference. There is a 6K difference there. It's that damn 15K. What the fuck? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, now they're making the official announcement that Sayu was voicing Deadpool for Marvel Rivals? They didn't do that before? I could have swore they did. I feel like that was not a secret. I could have swore it was not a secret. Hmm. He just puts his whole ass on the camera? What the fuck? It is interesting that apparently he's going to be a like swap character. He's apparently going to be every role and he can change between it. I guess. Duelist, strategist, and tank. Okay, hi Ziggy, how are you doing? Yes, Sayu the VTuber. Alejandro Saab is Sayu the VTuber. And apparently they just finally made the official announcement. Which is, again, like I said, goofy. I thought that was just something that we all already knew. He voices in everything. Him and Monarch. And the thing is, I don't like either of their voices. I don't like Monarch's, at least. Every time I hear it, I'm like, wait a fucking second. Wait a fucking second. He's most mainstream animes and he's in mini games. He's in a lot of anime games. But genuinely, I think the Deadpool one is going to be the one that, like, the weird way to say this is normies are going to most know him for. Almost certainly. Because I'm pretty sure he plays the character in, like, every Tencent game. He plays someone somewhere, basically. Someone somewhere. But... okay. Let me see, chat. What are y'all doing? Keith David? I wouldn't compare him to Keith David. I don't think that's a comparison. Hoyo. I didn't mean Tencent. I meant Hoyo. Thank you. Doesn't he play... oh no, I think I'm very wrong. Does he play the like Power Ranger looking guy in, not Genshin, in Triple Z? Right? I would just say because of how recognizable the voices are. I don't think Sayu's voice is as recognizable as fucking Keith David. Keith David is like, it's like listening to Morgan Freeman. You know Morgan Freeman. You know Keith David. I can think of a lot of voices I've heard where I can go, is that Sayu? That may be Sayu. That could be Sayu. Matthew Mercer is even more recognizable than him. He's the construction worker with the giant drill. Is he the bear? No, he's the dude. He's the punk looking dude. All right, hold on. We're going to the behind the voice actors. Oh, of course he voices one of the English versions of Twisted Wonderland. Wait, he was Greymon in Time Stranger? Shit. Trying to see if there's anybody else I recognize as I scroll through here. Shallot? Really? Okay, I knew he was in Fairy Tale. He was in Sausage Party? Christ. Anton, there it is. Anton Ivanov is the character from Triple Z. And he's Kaiju number 9. Motherfucker. Well, I guess it's all right that I stopped watching the Kaiju number 8 anime before it got to the Kaiju number 9 parts. I'm familiar with an English dub of Doesn't Me Keith's I got a range and a great sense of humor. Phasma update? Phasma update? No. And I'm probably not going to. But I'm looking to see if there's anyone else I recognize. I'm not getting much of anything. Honkai Star Rail, Xing Yuan. Hell's Paradise, Gabby Maru. Even the Bleach characters he's voiced, I do not recognize. Oh, he plays Terranora Kuga in Food Wars. I'm pretty sure he's the one who specializes in like Chinese cuisine, and his whole shtick is being spicy. I would have never known that's him because I didn't listen to the dub. I only watched the sub. Oh my god. He's the main character of the honor at Magic High School. Isn't it supposed to be the irregular at Magic High School? Why does it say the honor? I could have swore that manga was called The Irregular at Magic High School. Is this another ninja sex party? We're going back to my playlist. Okay. Doesn't surprise me. Keith's got a range. And Word on the street is the guy who voiced Hell from Death Note voices one of the Void Hunters in Triple Z. Probably. I wouldn't doubt it. But smoked cheese cookie in Cookie Run Kingdom. There's a smoked cheese cookie and he looks like an Aztec. There it is, the regular Magic High School. Why is this other one with the same character called The Honor? Huh? That's the same character. Oh, of course, he's Leon from Pokemon. He's Leon, the champion, Leon. Pokemon Masters. Kukui, Roark, and Masked Royal. Gee, I wonder who Masked Royal could actually be. Crazy. Oh, he also voices Treble from One Piece, the guy that had like the snotty nose. Because it's all right for fighting commands out doing exactly that? No, it's because family's home. It's because the house is full of people. And on the days that it's not, are the days that I try to stream, which is why we've only had that one stream of like Digimon for like 11 hours. I'm only in 2017. Jesus, how old is this guy? I forgot how long he's had a career. Jesus. Oh my god, he was in Battleborn. Hilarious. Okay. Tons of Smite stuff, some Ruby stuff. Side characters. He was in Prince of Tennis? Wait, how old is he? I thought he was my age. What do you mean he was voicing games? In 1999. That can't be right. He voiced Jesus in something? I don't think so. No, it looks like he voiced a bunch of very specific skins in Smite. Scorpio Milo in Saint Seiya in 2003. I thought we were around the same age. Where's your birthday? He's 31. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. Those have to be wrong. Those have to be wrong. He's 2 years older than me. That means if he voiced this character, I think they're attributing him to prior versions when he voiced like a newer version. I think he voiced like a newer remake of Saint Seiya, and people just attributed the old one to him. Because if he voiced the Saint Seiya Scorpio in 2003, he was 9. That can't be real. Debuted as a voice actor before you graduated high school? I was in single digits at the time. That makes, if that really is the case, and he had a voice deep enough to do treble in 2004 for One Piece, I guess he deserved it, but then I'm also imagining how much his parents whipped him into shape. Like, I feel like some of these can't be right. Like 2003, 2004, 2006? He'd be 12 in Prince of Tennis. That can't be right. Hold on, we're going to his website. Latest roles. I don't want latest roles. I want all roles. Give me all your roles, Alejandro. 2011. And then one that actually doesn't have a year. Steelfon, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink doesn't have a year on it. And then 2011, Apartment, Inanimate Insanity. 2015. Yeah, I think those are just like, I don't know if it's the whole website that does it or if it's viewers. But if he voiced Treble at a later time, like I could guess he did. Like here's Leon. Leon's here. Sino and Genshin Impact. I could imagine it being that like it just attributed all of the renditions of the character. Because other than that, it doesn't make any sense. When Mozart was my age, he'd been dead for 2 years. I have 18 digits? Good Lord. This year, I really want to get my shit together and get a voice reel done. Desperately. Desperately. And I'm wondering if I'm going to use some of the, when I sell my car that's going towards moving expenses, I'm going to use some of that to get a voice reel done after the move. For the potential, I think that's supposed to be release of Assassin's Creed Black Flag resynced come late March. What does that mean? What does that mean? Explain, Funky. What the fuck is a resync? Resync? That doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm a little lost. But yeah, I think that's what it is. I think that's a bunch of stuff attributed him for like roles that he played in the much later. And then people just like added in every single previous appearance of the character. So like he voiced a rebooted, like probably in the 2010s, Saint Seiya reboot. And so it like attributed the same character from like 1999 to him. A remake of Black Flag minus real world missions. Rule missions were supposed to be replaced with more Kinway pirating situations. I'm kind of afraid what they're going to do to the game. I'm not going to lie. Also, I have a curious question. Did anybody here ever play Skull and Bones? Anybody? I hate this Black Flag remastered. I don't know what they're going to like do to it to actually improve it. Okay, scones. What? Sync button on a controller, you could use the button to resync shit? No, I do not know that. Tea and crumpets? Tea and crumpets. But wait, what is am I having a stroke? What is that relevant to? What is that relevant to? I'm confused. Severely confused. Singapore. Singapore's government directly invested into Skull and Bones and therefore basically forbade them, oops, dropping my chapstick again, forbade them from canceling the game. They were not allowed to cancel the game. Okay. But okay. No, actually, Skull and Bones assets are being used for the Black Flag remake. I'm not surprised, considering they probably just vamped up Black Flag's original assets for Skull and Bones. I don't remember if I was unemployed the last time I was on your stream, but I have a job now. Hell yeah, Kelvin. Been working since Monday. I think you did tell me that you got a job. Didn't you come in? A while. I think you told me last week. I think you came in and said last week that you got a job and you'd been working. I think. Ubisoft was supposed to open a full-time development studio with their borders. Yes, they did. There was a Ubisoft Singapore. I think there still is. Let me double check. And originally it was a much more a much larger crew that was working on Skull and Bones, but then eventually it took like a massive backseat. Okay, apparently it still exists. It still exists, and they're hiring lead for people services, game design intern, AI and 3Cs, game design intern, world content and systems, Skull and Bones. So they're still adding stuff to Skull and Bones, apparently. Interesting. Oh, hold on. I feel a sneeze coming on. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. All right. But let me see here. Considering the Black Flag is one of the best-selling Assassin's Creed games and wildly loved, if Ubi screws this up, it may be finished. I don't think they could make it better. I don't think they could make it better. That was a quiet sneeze. I reached over and I pushed the mute button. I have a mute button on my audio interface and I just hold it and it mutes. It works pretty great. It works pretty great. But why? Did you want me to sneeze right into your face, right onto my microphone? Is that what you wanted, Vapor? 48-hour collab? God damn. Okay. It's gonna be like the recent games. It won't perform any better. I agree. I think you may get fans of Assassin's Creed Black Flag to come and play it. Has been squeaky or quiet? I am not. I am not a quiet sneezer. It also varies. Every sneeze is unique. Every sneeze that escapes me is unique. Really depends on the force that my body decides. All right, we're blowing this shit. Oh yes, I forget. Tricky sneezes like an elephant, doesn't she? A sneeze like you're trying to eject your lungs. It's hit or miss. But I don't often like just openly sneeze. I usually sneeze like into my arm. But hold on, I need chapstick. I'm gonna have to break out the like lip aggregate thing that I have today because my lips are chappy. Sneeze right into the face costs money. Don't be selling yourself short. Christ. Okay. All right. Chapstick on Chappy. No, not the fucking robot boxing movie. Absolutely not. Oh, wait. I just remembered a thing. Where the fuck is it? I have a bug on my phone. For whatever reason, it won't ever, my phone won't let me look at Twitter DMs anymore. So I get DMs and it tells me that I have messed on my phone. I click it and it's like, oh, message loading failed. And it won't load any DMs. So I have to like always remember to check PC. And I haven't. I have new DMs from 4 weeks ago. Okay. I've come to make an announcement. Your VOD watcher, yes, you, the viewer of the After Hours, please come to the show. Yes, please and thank you. Please and thank you. Every one of you should come to the show if you can. If not, leave the channel open when you leave for work in the morning. It'll work, I bet. I bet it'll work. Oh. Hold on a second. There's a dev in my DMs. Okay. Yes, show is live stream. Show is live stream. We have the bad habit of deciding to do like the thinnest facade of an in-character shenanigans, and then forgetting to do it. So a lot of the times I call live stream shows. And like the people that watch are guests and all this other stuff. It's like it's an actual carnival in a general sense. Eventually, I'd love to be able to make it feel more like an actual carnival with like a 3D environment. Show is show, but yes, it's a show. Oh, there's also that show, yeah. There is also that show. But that's a little show. That's a side show, if you will. That's sideshow. Okay. A sideshow? Yeah, he's the little guy is sideshow. Or show for short. Did you not think that did you think he was the main attraction? How could you? That's so mean, Sunstar. Okay. Sideshow Bob, not Sideshow Bob, you fucking dork. No. Okay, what is this? Oh, it's Tectone being a fucking transphobe. That's hilarious. Tectone posting a picture of, I guess, what's a trans woman speedrunning something, but he only screen grabbed the like part of Games Done Quick where it shows you like the person who's playing, the person who's like on the couch and the host and stuff. Y'all remember when GDQ was actually about speedrunning games? What a fucking joke. Immediately quote tweet, bro outed himself as a speedrunning tourist because he doesn't know speedrunning is basically fueled by autistic and transgender people since the beginning. And Tectone's a big streamer here on Twitch. He's basically a fucking jackass. And one of the big things I remember was he got yelled at a long time. He hates VTubers. Now, because Twitch and a bunch of people kept telling him, you're not a VTuber, dude. Take the tag out. Because he was using the VTuber tag when it was popular. He would just stick the most popular tags into his tags so that he would show up in every single popular category. Hold on, I want to see what's in the comments. Proceeds to post picture of people speedrunning games. What a fucking idiots. The only thing you sped on was balding by the time you were 30. And then speedrunning in quotation marks. GDQ has always been woke. Fake fan. Nailed it. Kind of crazy. Not gonna lie. I don't think you could have done anything with speedrunning games, thrown a dead cat and not hit a trans person. Listen, when they do their marathons of speedrunning games, it's statistically likely at least one of the people that's going to be speedrunning it is going to be a trans woman. I don't set the rules. I don't set the rules. That's just nature. Sai used to speedrun games. I never speedrun games. I've considered it because I think it would be funny. But I don't think there's any game I'm good enough at to consider speedrunning. They're the fastest. Like, listen, I don't know. HRT makes you better at speedrunning. Hold on, I'm going to do something goofy. Okay, hold on a second. Everybody's always got DMs to send me whenever I'm streaming, apparently. Oh, okay. I remember this animation. Thank you for sending it to me, Hectic. Hold on. Okay. How do you handle DMs as a streamer? What do you mean? If we share a thing, I will usually like be allowed to receive them, but I will not always answer them if I don't know you or we're not like close enough to talk to. I do not often answer DMs just from random chatters. It's classic knowledge, you dork. You dork. She's live right now. I'm almost certainly not going to get an answer. Wait, I'm pretty sure she's live. I didn't actually open any streams today to check. Oh yeah, she's live. That's fine. I'll get an answer eventually. I'll get an answer eventually. Okay. It's mostly a meme question anyway. Sai, this is important. Very important question. Did HRT make you better at speedrunning? Oh my goodness. I think the only games I can think of that if I wanted to speedrun them, it was going to be, or it would be, probably like Dishonored. If I'm terse and blunt with you, exactly. If it doesn't seem like I'm like actively trying to carry on the conversation constantly, I'm usually like busy or distracted or something. Oh my God, wait, I just found the article somebody was talking about Tim Sweeney. Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney argues banning Twitter over to its ability to AI generate pornographic images of minors is just gatekeepers attempting to censor all their political opponents. The fucking Geddon, just put the free games in the bag, bro. Hold on. Oh shit, no. No. Oh wait, I never mind. I opened it a different way. Chat. Hold on. I need to show you this. This is the quote tweet I saw the post under. Let's do this. I need the screen. Gotta drop everything when Baron answers the DMs. No, when I send a DM, I rarely expect an answer immediately. And if I get a message that's just like, hi, do you want to talk or some shit like that? That's a spam report and gone. Hi, spam report, gone. Hi, do you have time to talk? Spam report, gone. Now, if you say, hi, I'm here to ask about blah, 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 specific reason, then I'll believe that you're potentially a real person. Unattempted censorship? It's fucking insane. It's tattling is what it is. It's self-tattling. Just say you're a pedophile, bro, and we'll gun you down in the street. It's fine. It's fine. Would you still love me if I was a robot? Huh? Pics of a can of spam? Oh, good. Okay, that'd be kind of funny. That would be kind of funny. I'd say I can't believe, but I can. When it's a very obvious fucking like art spam bot or scammer trying to get you to quote, download their game, then yeah, they can get fucked. Good Lord. Oh, hey, I found that Transformers art you were talking about. Neat. Okay. Only cans, but it's all spam cans? Mayhaps. Would you still love me if I did the worm, not became a worm? It's fine, don't worry about it. We'll tie your limbs to fours? 4 fours? We're gonna post each other. We'll never discuss again. That's drawing and quartering. That's the phrase you're looking for. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Midas. Somebody was talking about it before, and I hadn't seen it yet. Huh. Horses. Oh, got you. Got you. I was gonna say, that's still drawing and quartering. I got where we were going. We got there eventually. I mean, yeah, I don't think the Decepticons necessarily Oh, that's the ad break. I thought that was the countdown until the ad break. Darn it. Bring the screen back, kids. Bring the screen back. Yeah. All right, chat. I'm going to go stand up for a little bit. I'm going to probably go nibble on something because I haven't eaten anything today. I think we have leftover chicken. So I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Have fun, kids. I like peanut butter sandwiches. Ugh. The downside that when I eat them though is I do the thing where when I have a sandwich, I eat around the crust. Well, I mean, I eat the crust. I eat the crust first, and then I go into the inner parts. But with the peanut butter sandwich, that means that the most peanut butter, when I do that, is in the center. So after I finish eating the sandwich, I'm always like, Marin Uncrustable. I mean, Uncrustables are pretty good, but there's so much sugar in them. Also, thank you for the self-care. Yeah, there's a lot more. You win a lot more when people actually start playing right. Who'd have thunk? Who would have thunk it? Truly a wonder. Allergic reaction, suffocating, but damn, it's worth it. That just reminds me of the story of the kid who had a peanut allergy. Also, I have Coco here. She wanted to come in after I was out in the kitchen. So now she's here. She's my baby. Hi. Hi, gorgeous. What are you doing? Don't you plop down. I see you stretching those legs out. Don't you lay down. Do you want to be pet or do you want to lay down? You can do one of this pet. Okay. Started licking me. Okay. Nope. That's plop. Did you give Coco PB? No, I didn't. What is it, baby? I can't reach you when you do that. Because I used the last of the peanut butter in the jar for my sandwich. And I wanted to lick the knife. Yep, still starting. That's my baby. Yeah. What is she doing? She likes to plop on her side when she's getting attention. So if you start petting her too much, she just rolls over and falls to the floor. And if I stop petting her after a minute, so she's not distracted by anything, because right now she's scratching her own ear. If my job wasn't being shitty and kind of busting my balls for water testing that I'd been doing by the books, all because there's a system test tomorrow, and they're worried it's not my fault you'll run a faulty ass system. Yeah, you're also correct. Yay, management blaming the lower echelon of the people who are... I don't fucking know, dude. She's licking the knife. Wait a minute. That's kind of... Do you just throw the hunk of like peanut butter that's still stuck to the butter knife in the trash? Do you wash it down the sink? Why? Why would you do that? Why would you not just lick the sweet, sweet peanut butter off it? Spread it on the wall? Oh my God. I do not the peanut butter. Why not? It's one of the best foods out there. I love peanut butter. I like peanut butter. It's really good. Funky? I'm guessing that's supposed to be chunky. You like it chunky. I like it technically smooth, but my favorite is the fresh ground peanut butter. So you get kind of like that runny-ish peanut butter, but then it's also really gritty. It's like perfectly gritty. What is it? Hi. You look so pathetic. What are you doing? Don't you plop down. If you want pets, you gotta stay up. Hi. Hi, gorgeous. Scratch, scratch, scratch. You want ear scritches? Is that what this is? Do you want neck scritches? What is it? What is it? Hi. Yo, gorgeous. Yo. I know. Sorry, chat. You just get to hear me. She plopped on the ground again, and I've leaned over to try and pet her. God damn it. Coco, I'm not flinging myself out of this chair to pet you. All right. But peanuts, which is why it's so weird that it's so much better than peanuts, Peanut butter, if you buy it in the jar, is not just peanuts. A lot of the times, it's also palm oil. They add extra oil to it, which is how you get things like Jif or Peter Pan and stuff. Those creamy versions are mostly oil. That's how they get the consistency. The gritty is why I dislike the fresh. I like the grittiness of it. It's not as gritty as, say, like crunchy peanut butter, where it's like a bunch of tiny peanuts just filling the entire peanut jar, peanut butter jar. PB is made when a big booty beauty sits on a bag of nuts. You may be onto something there. We may have a product. You have a question. I have an answer. What's the question? No VTuber product idea? No or new? Vapor, do we need to talk about your spelling? No, I know I only grind my own peanut butter and it's still so much better once they're ground up. Yeah. Monitor water and sewer lift stations? Oh. Should his community be called Lil Rockies? Okay, but why? What's the reason? She butter on my peanut till I'm nuts? God damn it. Is it true you recycle toilet paper? What? Ooh. I got you. I got you. If Tommy likes it, yeah, I think it's a good name. Or is this you being funny and pitching a name? Are you going to pitch the name to Tommy? Foul? Wait, which part? Which part, Vapor? I'm telling him he has to use it legally as a business partner? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Good Lord. Good Lord, dude. All right. Hold on a second. Again, all the notifications under the goddamn globe. And then nothing of interest. Okay, good. Good, keep that way. Not an official buzz partner, but yes, listen. Trying. Yes, Coco, what can I do for you? Hi. Okay. Who the fuck is this? Ugh. The number, hold on. One thing I didn't do, and I feel like I should have done. I wanted to check all the quote tweets of the Epic Games CEO saying the things that he did say. And they're kind of golden. It's a bunch of Steam memes and then a bunch of check that man's hard drive. Check that man's hard drive. Browse. Not an official buzz partner, boozing alone, shaking my head. Damn. Can't believe these guys aren't buzzball partnered. God, what does it take to get buzzball partnered? Ugh. I looked up the WF module for Starfinder. Oh, the Warframe module. 6 to 8 hour adventure that's essentially a rescue mission from the game. Oh, interesting. Okay. Is it a system inside of the Warframe universe, or is this system where you get to play as a Tenno in Starfinder? Hmm. Good Lord. All right. 0 damage. Wait. Da-da-da. In Warframe, I have no idea what I'm doing. You're doing 0 damage, is what Carrie's saying. Anything other than Rescue or Spy would be an endless combat simulator? True. Did you have $1 billion empire to run? Get a publicist? My God, I think I spend too much time online. I'm not even rich. Like everyone else is new to Steel Path. I ain't even touched a single Steel Path mission. That shit hasn't happened. Oh, okay. There was something else for a second. You want your toilet paper? Why would you want that back? Why? Why? For what possible reason? What possible reason could you have for wanting it back? Anyways, until you've played every node in the origin system? Yes, you have to beat every node in the origin system. The one that I ignored the longest, though, was the Kuva Fortress. I just did not give a shit. Just completely slipped my mind. Kuva is important. I still have not figured out the use of Kuva. Ain't got a clue what Kuva's used for. I've got like 40,000 Kuva. No idea where to put it. No idea where to put it. Is how you gamble? With what? Well, I figured it was nothing considering every single reputation in the game sells Kuva by like the thousands. Appears they're going for 1999 proto style frames in the module? Really? Huh. Did the module come out before or after the release of 1999? That's odd. Greedy with Kuva as Tencent is with... Is it greedy or is it generous? Because it feels like every single reputation you get can eventually trade for... can trade for Kuva at like max level. Yes. Will play without us. I don't have much else to do. Like the only story bit that I have that's worth left to do is oh, what is it? The Tempestari. A VTuber with more than 150k followers, and I have never heard of them. I have no idea who this person is. Complete mystery. Some light blue-haired android. Huh. We'll do more wife kissing and oh-woing off stream? What does that mean? Let me go grab the soul herder. The what? The new strange, at least. Sanctuary Onslaught is great. I think so. No, wait. Is that the one where there's like a sound? And we're supposed to track it down with one of the what was it? One of the glass AI guy, or cephalons. One of the cephalons. But okay. New Strange is the Cephalon Samara's quest. Yeah, it's I've gotten to the part where it's like, all right, go scan the thingamadoohickeys, and then I just didn't. I just didn't. But what the hell? Oh, okay. All right, let me put this shit away. We're also not going to get to doing the Dubai food today because the video is really long. Keeping the horny from chats pays the romance tax off stream, so no one's too horny in chat. We get it. Yes, correct. I'm glad you understand. I'm glad we're getting there. But it's our horny, not the ours emotes. Oh my God. A money order to pay my vehicle tax before February 5th. Fudge. Cephalon Suda is Octavia related? We be horny as the group and we're proper goons? No, it's my. Is that why I've been so active in the Not Safe for Work channel? Is that why? Is that why? Put in the gaming chat, you're able to mostly get that? Oh, okay, hold on. Hold your horses. Hold your horses. Oh. Does it reroll stats or does it reroll stats or does it reroll it back into something that you have to unlock again? Watching Corno by yourself, handsome? No, I'm with the science team. Yeah. Okay, it rerolls the stats, but it doesn't reroll like the weapon or anything it's for. Interesting. Because we can't be on stream? Correct. Keep it there. Go to the tiny corner I have designated for y'all in the Discord to be horning. That is the way. That is the way it's supposed to be. Hi, Coco. She's not like it when I talk like that. Is that what it is? What's wrong? What's wrong? What is it? What are you looking at? Hi. Hi, gorgeous. Hello. Oh, hello. She's trying to climb into my lap. Oh, come on. Come on up. Come on. All right. All right. I got a dog in my lap. I got a big dog. He's my baby. That's my baby. Hi. You just donked your head on my metal headset. Hike around when she shrank it? What? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You don't know I'm talking to people, do you? You think I'm only talking to you. Thank you. That's my baby. That's my 60-pound grandma of a dog that I call my puppy. All right. Now I won't get Persona for the next few months. She keeps trying to lick my face. It's my baby. It's my baby. Now I'm just...
Step inside, step inside.
You goofball. Hi, Master Nova. Welcome in. I'm currently wrangling a 60-pound dog in my lap. That's my baby. That's my baby. And I'm sending hair everywhere. Here. Coco, stop wiggling. I'm holding you like a baby. All right, here. Get your tummy rubs. I'm holding her on her back now. Hi, gorgeous. Hello. Hello. Is it making a persona redeem? What do you want the persona redeem to do? Back when we were playing Persona, I was considering getting like a banner that made it look like it was like the eye slash looking thing from Persona. Coco, Coco, quit kicking. Oh my god. You also just clawed the shit out of my hand, girl. I need to trim your claws. All right. Here, let me let her out. Now I've hyped her up. Damn, she clawed my arm really good. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I have seen a picture of Coco, so I'm just imagining Otto. I mean, the Coco emotes show her. That's actually her. And you can also go check the pet channels in Discord if you want to see her. She's my sweet little mutt. If you're on mobile, it's a little hard to see, but yeah, that emote, when somebody says Coco, that's her. Yeah, that's my baby. That's my baby. That's her looking up at me when I tried to take a picture of her. She's the sweetest. Constantly up to no good. But really quick. Okay. A silly booper. She is a goofy ass dog. She is a very special case. But damn if she isn't a good dog. Okay, well, she didn't totally break skin on my arm. The funny thing too is I have dermagraphia, so when she like scratches me, even if it doesn't like cut through or like break any layer of skin, the line where she scratched me like puffs up, so I get like these long scratch marks just going down my arm that are all erased. And I know it freaks some people out sometimes, but the worst case scenario is they just itch. They just itch sometimes. They're like hives. They're like shaped hives, basically. What was the name of you had around for a bit? That was Cheese. That was the bad roommate's cat. His name was Chester, but we called him Cheese, or sometimes Jesus Crust. Our Lord and Savior, Jesus Crust. Yeah, he was the orangest cat to ever orange. He was a very special boy too, and he was very sweet, but also very aggressive if you started to play with him. Yeah, I don't know if there's probably some pictures buried deep in the Discord, but I don't have any more saved. I don't have any more saved. Due to allergies, I was explaining the symptoms to an allergist. He took this thing that looked like a plastic bugle chip, ran the tip over my arm, and went, yeah, that's a nice, clear demographic. Exactly. I had the same issue. It was worse when I was younger. It's still a thing now. And it's all like puffed up on my arm right now. There's a bunch of lines where Coco scratched me. But when I was younger, I used to go to the pool every summer. And I would try to do tricks. So obviously, when you're learning tricks, you absolutely eat shit on occasion. When I would eat shit off of a diving board or something, would like land on my back, land on my side, do all that stuff. Instead of being like a perfectly uniform swollen part on my back, it would make patterns. And when it did that, it would scare the shit out of people. I'd be like standing in line to get on the diving board again to try the trick again. And somebody behind me would like tap me on the shoulder and be like, are you okay? Your back is like fucked up. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. It just itches. But that was kind of it. It only ever really happens from irritation. To the point where when I was in school, sometimes for shits and giggles, I would take a pencil, usually the eraser end, and I would basically draw words on my arm and it would puff up into that word. I only now realize that I probably could have used that to cheat on a spelling test. If I did it before the test while I was doing the last minute studying, could have worked. It's too bad. I was smart, so I just learned to spell. I just got rid of my fiance's shitty roommate that mooched, supported AI, and never made any improvements for themselves or the house. So yay beef. Hell yeah. Didn't you tell us that? And there and go itching? That's fine. Pale effects if I get scratched and itch, it leaves a red mark. People ask if I got bruised. I suppose that makes sense. Yeah, mine actively puffs up. Like I'm running my finger over it right now. And you can see and feel like the whole line of where she scratched me. Hell yeah, beef. As long as it works out for you. As long as the roommate wasn't hypercritical to being able to afford your place to live. That's always the most important part. That was the downside of living with those people for 2 years. I 1 year should have been enough, and I just didn't see it. I was too desperate and didn't want to move again. But so we stayed another year, and it just got worse. And now Phantom is, wait, was it in that? No, it was a couple songs back. It wasn't in that order, but. All right. Good song, dude. Good song. But Sunstar, what do you have to say? Guess what's the time for me? What time? I have no idea what time it is. Not a clue. Not even a little bit. They're on the same stream, so it counts. Adventure time. Come on, grab your friends. That's done. Completely freaking quit their job and just played gotchas on what? Insane. Insanity. Heck, I put in there for your ease the one you can mostly make currently. Heck? Heck? I don't know what heck means. Oh, this one. What the fuck? Tahili Miban Kuva heck? What the fuck are those words? What the fuck are those words? I don't need any other weapons. I have the bubonic hoe. Come on, grab your friends. Just leaves. Are you just leaving? Nah, get your ass back here. Get your ass back here. You're not allowed to leave yet. You're not allowed to leave yet. But what the shit? Why is this person starting soon scream? Her VTuber sitting in a car seat. Ew. 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 Don't like that. Don't like that one little bit. But where the monsters roam and the demons all feed. All right, I'm just gonna cave. We're gonna raid red. Especially because apparently it's his last stream this week before he goes on some kind of vacation. Says he's going back to the homeland for a week. Red Claw. All right, chat. That means it's brulee time. It's brulee time, kids. Grab your nearest Molotov and or crime enabler, if you will. Make sure you highlight the message, not the entire, well, not the message, the raid part of the message, not just, well, the grab your sub raid message part. I know one of you did it yesterday. I saw it. We'll be back tomorrow, you guys. I will see you tomorrow. We're probably going to be doing some kind of game. I don't know exactly what it's going to be just yet. We may do Wolfenstein. I do have New Order downloaded, but I think that's out of order of the games. I think. I'm not sure. We will find something to do, though. We'll be playing a game tomorrow of some kind. Until then, though, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for being awesome. Thank you for enjoying the show. And I will see you tomorrow. Good night. Go eat something delicious now. I will find you.